Oh, thank you. In the land of I am, more than I have been, more than I am. We are in week 2 of our book study on Discover Your Divinity, and that place, the I am, in the land of the I am. How many people in here would love to live there? Right? And what the affirmative prayer process does is give us a practice that can facilitate exactly that, right? Facilitate that place, that space that knows we're whole, and yet we forget it all the time. So Charles Fillmore says true healing means to make whole. So true healing, as we understand it in Unity, is you actually are whole, but true healing is to make you aware that you're whole. Does that make sense? It's about waking up to the truth of who you actually are. And the question that I think I'm going to keep inviting us to come back to again and again and again is, who would you be in the world if you knew you were inherently whole? Who would you be? How would you show up? What would you accomplish if you actually knew in the deepest understanding of yourself that you were whole, that you actually had all the capacities that you could possibly need to meet anything and everything that might be arising in time and in space? I don't know about you, but it's kind of cool, right? A tool that you can just keep coming back to again and again and again. And if you can't do it on your own, guess what? You got prayer chaplains, you got other people who, you know how much easier it is to see other people's divinity, right? Like, oh, wow, I know how amazing you are. You have no idea how amazing you are, but I know. So let me remind you, right? We get to do that for each other. That's why we come together in spiritual community. So affirmative prayer, somebody asked me yesterday, they're like, so what is it exactly, though? I was like, it took me a whole book to try to explain it. And you want me to boil it down? I would boil it down to this. Affirmative prayer is a practice where we realign with our true nature and consciously live from our divinity. That's what it does for us. It reminds us who we are, and then it provides us with an understanding of how we're being invited to show up in time and in space. And the heart of affirmative prayer is God is, I am, therefore I can, or I have, or I know. Let's all say this together. God is, I am, therefore I can, I have, I know. That is the heart of affirmative prayer, right there. Affirmative prayer is not some Hail Mary to change the outer world. Affirmative prayer is changing us, changing our understanding of something, shifting our consciousness, which means that we can then show up in whatever conditions are showing up from a centered understanding of the truth of who we are. That is the power of affirmative prayer. So we have some foundational spiritual principles. If you missed last week's talk, watch it. I'm going to hit very briefly what I covered last week, and then we're going to keep moving forward. So I call it the prime principle, because everything that Unity believes arises from this prime principle of oneness. There is no duality is our human experience, but that is not the truth. The truth is oneness. And there is only, so we explain it this way in Unity and Marin. We say there is only one power and one presence. God is all there is. Now, if we could just live from this and not forget, we would be walking on water. But we forget. So what unity has done is created a way to understand how to bring this sort of ephemeral, experiential, undescribable language fails us as to what oneness is. A way for us in our human bodies to be able to access it, to be able to name it, to be able to claim it, our yes and our no. What do we want in our life, and what are we going to not want in our life? So affirmative prayer empowers us to respond to life's circumstances by drawing upon the truth of oneness. I wrote that. But I really want you to, it doesn't say that affirmative prayer changes our life circumstances so everything is easy. That's not what it says. It says affirmative prayer empowers us to respond to life's circumstances from an awareness of oneness. This is profoundly different from almost every other prayer practice. Can you feel that? Profoundly different. It's what makes unity so unique. New Thought so unique is this prayer practice. So I have my little graphs and charts because I love them. So we have the prime principle, which is oneness. And we talked about last week about how you can understand oneness as omnipresence, omniscience, and omnipotence, right? Fully powerful, fully knowing, and fully present. And then we talked about how if that is oneness, then goodness arises from that. And by goodness, we mean it has no opposite. Right? There is no devil in unity's understanding. There is no power that is in opposition to oneness, because if there was, then it wouldn't be oneness. It wouldn't be. Right? So there is nothing in opposition to this one power and this one presence. Now, this is also very different than a lot of teaching. So can we just take a breath with that? Because I really do think that this is where we break down, that we still somehow think whatever that embedded theology was, whatever is the human race consciousness around good and evil, and and that somehow it's so easy for us to identify with the devil in our soul, and yet so hard for us to identify with the divinity that we actually are. So that goodness, then how do we, all of this is like, can you feel how it's kind of up here? Like, how is this useful? That's what I keep coming back to. Like, how is it useful? It is useful to understand what oneness really means and just how huge it is. But where it becomes very useful is when we start to think about the 12 powers and what Linda and I call divine qualities. And so what these are aspects of that infinite allness. It's how we name the divine. It is how we understand the divine, and most importantly, for unity, it's how we activate the divine in ourselves. By naming it, we can then claim it. Can you feel that? And if we aren't able to articulate and name it, either as an idea or as words, then we just kind of float around and kind of mush. So the qualities of the divine can be things like creativity and joy and wholeness and perfection and abundance. You can see that there's a lot of them, right? The main point is we're talking about qualities of the divine that have no opposite. There is no opposition to these qualities because, again, in oneness, is there any opposition to the oneness? So there would be no opposition to the divine qualities that we're using to name the divine. Everyone still with me? Yes. All right. So we also have the 12 powers. And if you're feeling like, whoa, this is a lot, start with the 12 powers. Pick one power. Maybe it's the power you picked at Burning Bull. Maybe it's another power. But pick one power and spend the next 3 months just diving in to what that power would mean for you, right? All of these divine qualities are all pointing to the same place. Can you feel that? They're all pointing to oneness, but it's a way for our human mind to be able to grasp it, to be able to comprehend it, to be able to understand it. And we want to align everything. We want to align our heart and our mind. We don't want to leave our mind at the door. So one of the things I love about New Thought is I didn't have to shut off my brain, right? Just believe. Just have faith. Don't question that. How much did I hear that growing up? Don't question that. It's just, just go with it. And Unity doesn't say that. Unity says, understand it so that you can activate it truly for yourself. So, how does all of this work? So we have several names for what I call how it works. One of them is the creative process. One of them is called the law of mind action. For those of you who have been in New Thought for a while, you will know that term. And then the other one is divine order. And all three of these things are talking about the same thing, the way it works. How does life exist? How do things actually come into being? Where do things arise from? The creative process, which we are an active participant in, is how Unity understands that's the basis of our cosmology. So, what is it? It is mind, which then becomes mind is like, we'll go into mind as like the big infinite allness. Then it's an idea, a divine idea, like love or peace, something we can actually get our hands around. And then expression. That's how it actually manifests in time and space. Can you feel how it sort of moves? And often we have like this inverted triangle because we're going from infinite allness, oneness, prime principle, and then we get a little bit more narrow and we say, what's the ideal state of being we want to pick right now? What's one embodiment we want to pick right now? And then the expression of that is how that idea, love, joy, peace, how does it actually show up in time and in space? Everybody still with me? So, what this looks like, oneness, infinite allness. Out of all of that, because I don't know about you, but that's not very useful for me, what divine quality or 12 power would be useful for me right now? So with 12 power, humility would be how it would express as me, right? So possibly with humility, it might be the power of release, right? I'm going to release my pride. I'm going to release my ego. And that will lead me to the expression of what is possible in time and space right now. I can be humble. Can you feel that? Can you feel the progression there? All right, so let's look at another example. So we start off with oneness, and my favorite power, of course, zeal. If zeal is how I want to understand God right now, and then what it means in expression is that I can have energy to start a new project. Can you feel that? All right, we're going to take it. So affirmative prayer is we're aligning with our true nature, consciously living from our divinity. It is changing who? Me. Right? It's changing me. So it would be God is, because remember, God is, I am, I can, right? God is oneness. God is zeal. I am zeal. And therefore, I have the energy to start a new project. You feel how that works? Mind, big ideas, into one idea that we can actually grasp, into how is it going to show up as my life. And this is really the important, this is how we change the world. So it doesn't stay in ideal land. Affirmative prayer is not about staying in the touchy-feely warm place, though it's a wonderful place to stay, but it's about activating it. What does it actually mean? I have the energy to start a new project. At the end of affirmative prayer, you should be changed. You should be willing to step in and go start the new project. Yeah? All right. So, some more examples. God is wisdom. I am wisdom. Therefore, I can choose wisely and well. I can discern clearly. If God is strength and I am strength, I can be strong and steadfast. I can have courage and tenacity. If God is love and I am love, I can open my heart freely and speak compassionately. If God is joy and I am joy, I can be lighthearted. I can have fun. If God is power and I am power, I can be powerful. I can have self-mastery. I can speak truth. I can change the world. Can you feel mind, idea, expression? Now, if all of that is making your eyes roll back in your head, I want you to just remember, God is, I am, I can. Everybody say that. God is, I am, I can. That is, right? That is the creative process. That is divine order. Mind, idea, expression. That is how we bring consciousness to how we are moving through the world. And as we bring our consciousness to ourself, now remember, there's only oneness. So as I up-level my consciousness, somewhere, someone's consciousness is matching me. We're never alone in this journey. When I'm sometimes at the worst of my, frustrations or anger or loss or pain or grief, I specifically touch base in my mind with everyone else who has ever experienced this, who has come out the other side. I consciously invite myself to up-level into the understanding that there's always the other side. So, this brings us to affirmations and negations. So, I don't know about you. Wait, is that where I want that to be? It's coming up. Okay. So, let's start with affirmations. So, affirmative prayer, the basis for this is going to be affirmations, right? And what we are affirming in an affirmation is declarations of the truth of spiritual principle and divine ideas. Everybody with me on that? Right? Spiritual principle and divine ideas. That's what we are affirming. Now, negations, which used to be called denials, but denials have taken on a psychological term, like understanding, that really tends to mean put your head in the sand and don't pay attention. And that is not what we're doing in affirmative prayer. So Linda and I have updated the language and we're calling them negations. Because what we're doing is we're negating, removing the power from a thought or belief that we no longer wish to experience. So can you see how it's our yes and our no? When we say yes to something, we are automatically saying no to something else. Now, for my people who like to sort of straddle the edges of everything, right? Affirmative prayer is inviting you to not straddle, but to stand definitively in the spiritual truth of who you are. And to let go of what no longer serves. Remembering our power of order is to be able to pivot, right? So you can always pivot. So here are examples of affirmations that are anchored in spiritual truth. I am. Notice how they start with I am, because what we're affirming is our spiritual identity. I am the vitality of divine life, whole and healthy. I am the power of abundance, giving and receiving gratefully. I am spiritual power, focused and clear. I am the discerning power of wisdom, listening for my next steps. I am the unifying power of love in my relationships. Can you feel how powerful those are? Can you see mind-idea expression? Right? We have the divine idea, divine life, and then how it expresses whole and healthy. Abundance, giving and receiving. Power, focused and clear. Right? So we're accessing the divine idea and then claiming how it's going to express through us. So, breaking it down, they are in the first person. It is a declaration of your divine identity. Short, focused, and easily repeatable. I know you out there. I know your affirmations that are like run-on sentences because you're trying to cover everything. So instead, have 5 different affirmations so that they're short and repeatable. They are always in the present tense. We are affirming what is true right now. So even if you are experiencing a health challenge, life is still available to you right now. Even if you're experiencing financial challenges, abundance is available to you right now because it is a divine idea. It doesn't come and go. It doesn't fluctuate. It's reliable. It's dependable. Use vocabulary that's personal to you. So this is really important. Words have a lot of different meanings. Some words are really going to resonate, and other words aren't. Play around with the language so that it really ignites your heart in some way. And then you're focusing on the what, not the how or the why. Does that make sense? Focusing on what I am. Right? So, I have some other examples of what has appeared. So we've been very, very successful with our affirmations. They're all out there in the world. So you might hear affirmations like this. I love myself as I am. I am healthy, wealthy, and wise. It's okay not to be okay. I am proud of myself for getting this far. I am allowed to say no to others and yes to myself. I will be kind to myself and others today. Do you notice something different about these kinds of affirmations? They are not rooted in spiritual principle. Now, there is nothing wrong with these kinds of affirmations. I mean, anything that you say to yourself that's going to make you feel better is awesome, right? But they're not rooted in the truth of who you are. So when we're trying to change and evolve and let go of something that doesn't work and move into something better, I can say until I'm blue in the face, I love myself as I am. Has that worked for anybody in here? But if I say I am the unifying power of love in my relationships, including my relationship with me, can you feel how different that feels? So it's not that the other kinds of affirmation are wrong. It's just that they are less impactful because they're not rooted in your divine identity. They're rooted in our human experience. So affirmations are statements of declarations of truth about spiritual principle. Negations are how we remove the power from the things that don't serve anymore, right? So I don't know about you, but even if I say, God is wisdom, I am wisdom, and then I'm trying to say, I can choose wisely and well, and what I hear in my head is this little voice going, oh yeah, you've done really great so far. Right? God is strength, I am strength, I can be strong and steadfast. Yeah, I've seen you, you're just all over the place, aren't you? Right? A soft breeze could blow you over right now. Anyone in here understand that? Yes. So we don't bypass around what is actually arising within us, because then we're not healing it. Paul Hasselbeck says, just ignoring what's actually arising in opposition to the truth of who we are Ignoring it and just sort of shoving it down, pretending it's not there, is like putting icing on a moldy cake. We want to excavate those things. We want to hear them. We want to bring them into the light and expose them to spiritual principle, which has no opposites. There is no false belief that you have about yourself, rooted in your human experience, that is stronger than spiritual principle and oneness. So, negations remove the power of perhaps beliefs you have about the permanence of our circumstance. How many people in here get to that place where you're like, oh, it's been that way, it'll always be that way? How is that serving you as you grow and evolve? Remove the power of negative interpretations that something is missing, wrong, or broken in our life. Remove the power of a condition or a situation is our identity. Oh, I'm sick. That is who I am, right? I have cognitive challenges. That is who I am. That's not the truth of who you are. Removing the power of believing what everyone knows. Oh, it's flu season, so everybody's going to get the flu. Oh, it just has to run its course. Beliefs that we are not worthy or deserving. So we use the power of negation. Now, can you feel how they go together? So we negate the thing. So, okay, let's say I'm having a crisis where I need wisdom, the situation with the trees, right? Because please let me be clear, I did not want to remove 5 palm trees, right? So the situation is arising, I am feeling my own inner turmoil, and I go into meditation, I go into prayer, and I know that I am wisdom. God is wisdom. I am wisdom. I can discern. I can choose wisely. And what I hear come up is, oh, this is a mess. There is no good choice here, right? That's literally what I was hearing. There is no good choice here. So then I meet that with truth again, which is, there is always a choice that is for the highest and the best. Even if it's hard, right? Principle, there's always a choice for the highest and best. I am rooting myself in that clarity right now. Can you feel how we meet ourselves with truth? So we don't pretend that everything's hunky-dory when we actually really know that it's not. So I love, this is Charles Fillmore using a negation and then an affirmation, right? So we negate and then we affirm. So he says, I deny that I inherit any belief that in any way could limit my health, intelligence, or power to do good. What if we all walked around like that? Believe in that. There is no external authority that could convince me I am unworthy or unable. Can you feel the negation? I'm not going to give power to that construct that is guiding my decisions. And instead, I am now free from every assumption that could interfere with my capacity to be healthy, prosperous, peaceful, and wise. The affirmation. So a lot of us use affirmations in our prayers, but I really want you to be real. And you have something to meet the truth of what's actually arising within you on an emotional level. We realign with our true nature and consciously live from our divinity. That is what we are doing. So I'm going to leave you with this final quote from Myrtle. Because, a lot of us have been running that engine for a while, yes? We've got thoughts and beliefs and ideas that have gotten us to where we are right now. And sometimes it can just be painful to let go of these things that have been such a foundational understanding of our sense of self, our sense of personality. So Myrtle says, no one wants to feel that what they have and have been depending on is false and unreliable. But all want to add to the treasures they now have. And all will, in time, Drop the worthless pebbles for the precious gems when they have awakened to the difference. So the invitation is to let yourself awaken. Awaken to the difference between how you're holding yourself from a human perspective and how you can expand that and affirm that emphatic yes, being and originating from your divine self. So today's the last chance to sign up for a book study. Can you feel how deep all of this is? Join a group. It's much more interesting to be sharing all of this with other people. We're going to close the groups after this week. So if you're like, join a group. There is so much to discuss. There is such richness there. So let's take this into a time of meditation. Everyone doing okay? These foundational principles are huge because at least for me, they quiet the doubt. I can see logically what's happening. And so my ego can get on board because it, quote unquote, makes sense, right? So let's take a breath together. And I know maybe a lot got stirred up. Maybe a part of you was freaking out right now. That was a lot. And just touching down into that space, that place that is our divinity. The knower that knows, the power that empowers, the presence that is presencing right here, right now. And as we breathe into that space and we allow ourselves to touch the truth of our beingness, in this moment, just allowing a quality to arise or a power to arise, what would be useful right now? What divine idea can I embody in this moment? And just allowing that power, that quality to inform every dimension of your being. Just feeling how your whole system resets, realigns, allowing that to happen. And as we step into the silence, just inviting that question of how am I called to express this? How am I called to be this in time and in space? I can, I have, I know. And if there's any opposition that arises, just gently and lovingly acknowledge it and meet it with the truth of who you truly are. So let's rest here for a few moments in the silence. How good it is to be still and know, how good it is to celebrate the divinity that we are, how good it is to lift our capacity to affirm and negate, to be able to affirm that which is our true nature and name, and to lovingly and gently negate that which no longer serves. I see each of us stepping forward in this process of claiming the divine I am that we each are. And I see and I know that it is unfolding within each of us right now, not tomorrow, not the next day, not when you read the book. Right now, it is the very truth of each of us. Wholeness is, love is, peace is, and we are saying yes to inhabiting those divine ideas with grace, with ease, and with so much joy. And in agreement, we all say, and so it is. Amen. Ashe.